Hello and good morning. It's Phil Thatch and I am at Dayton Wetlands and I'm walking through what I can only describe as Tick Central to attempt to get to a spot here at the wetlands where I can get pretty close and a pretty low angle on the birds. There are some green heron here, not a whole lot, but some. And maybe if I can get over here, get down to the water's edge, I can get some shots. Wish me luck. You ever heard of boots on the ground? Well, this is boots in the water. So I've made it to my location, but I've kind of spooked all the birds getting here, so I have to just kind of sit here and be cool and hope they come back. I told you there were green heron here, and this one is tiny in the frame, and the frame is heavily cropped. It's 600 millimeters, 1/250th of a second, wide open at 6.3. The ISO is 500 on this one. This is probably my favorite photograph of the day. Even though it's heavily cropped, this 560 millimeter shot, sometimes I accidentally bump the lens and then I'm not at 600 millimeters. I sure would have liked to have been at 600 millimeters, but this is 560. 1/250th of a second, wide open at 6.3. ISO is 320. Beautiful green heron on this tree that's leaning over at an angle. I like the background of this. I like the composition of this. This one just turned out really good thanks to some creative cropping. Struggling this morning. Over there where I was down in the water, literally, the light was coming from the wrong direction. If it had been 100% overcast, I could get shots from there if the birds ever came over to me, but with it completely backlit, it was just a disaster. So I've come over here to the area I really don't like to shoot from because it's up so high, but at least the light's shining from the right direction. And really not getting much over here either, except I did get a tiny in the frame great eagle. Now I'm at the new location where I'm up higher than I prefer to be, but one thing that's interesting about this spot is you're almost eye level with some telephone lines. And this is a gray catbird that landed on the telephone lines, and I managed to get a shot of it. Still at 560 because I haven't realized that I've accidentally knocked my lens away from 600 millimeters. 1/400th of a second, f6.3, and ISO is 1100. Here's the great egret shot, still at 560. I really should check that more often. 1/1000th of a second, f6.3 and ISO 320. This is all the way across to the other side of the wetlands from where I was standing right next to the road, and just tiny in the frame, but I thought it was kind of cool. The bright white bird in the much darker surroundings. Still plenty of light on the surroundings, but the bright white bird really shows up. Continuing to struggle with finding subjects this morning, so I left the wetlands and went to Dayton Park, didn't find anything there. And then I decided to come to the Blythe Ferry ramp, and as I was driving towards it, I ran across a little herd or flock or whatever you call it of deer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and made some photos just right here from the car. Let's look at those. Look at this beautiful young buck that I managed to photograph. This one is 530 millimeters, 1/500th of a second, f6.3, and 1250 ISO. Just absolutely beautiful. Love the way this shot turned out. Here's a 350 millimeter shot of a pair of deer. One of them appears to be a female, and the other one is another young buck. This one's 1/500th. f6, which is wide open at 350 millimeters, and ISO is 1100. Happy with this one as well. And this is the young buck that was in the first picture. 210 millimeters for this one, 1/320th, f5.6, and the ISO is 900. I just love to capture photographs of deer, and they're so beautiful. Well, I have made it to the Blythe Ferry area, and not a whole lot happening here. I was hoping there was a great blue heron hanging around. It's weird when you can't even find a great blue heron. But what is happening is here on the little fishing pier right outside the car, a little T-shaped fishing pier, there's about 15 black vultures. So I used the Z8 and the 180 to 600 and made a few photos of those guys. Here's the first of a few black vulture photographs. This is 600 millimeters, 1/320th, wide open at 6.3, and ISO 400. Beautiful eyes on the black vulture. Here's another shot, I believe, of that same black vulture. Very similar settings. ISO is up to 450. On this one, I am using auto ISO. This is, I believe, a juvenile black vulture. When I first looked at it, I thought with those white feathers on the top of its head that it might be a elderly black vulture, but I believe the dark face is what signifies that it is a juvenile black vulture. You can see this one has a light colored face, which I believe signifies that it's an adult, and this one has the darker face of a juvenile. Here's another black vulture, and it's kind of halfway in between. Maybe it's having a midlife crisis, and this one is elderly, and this one is, who knows? I don't know. I could be wrong about all that, but I believe this one is probably younger than this one, and this one is the youngest of all. But this last black vulture shot is also 600 millimeters, 1/320th, wide open at 6.3, and the ISO is only 110 for this one. Really having trouble finding subjects this morning. I've traveled to a completely different county. Now I'm at Harrison Bay State Park, and I was rolling around through here, done some hiking in a field that usually produces good results. Nothing. But now I'm at the marina, and finally the easiest shorebird to find in the greater Chattanooga area, the great blue heron. There's one right over there near the dock with a terrible background, but at least I got a picture of it. And here is the great blue heron there at the dock, and you can see boats in the background. There's a Danforth style anchor, I believe is what kind of anchor that is, hanging off the front of that boat. This is 370 millimeters, 1/500th, wide open at 6.3. The ISO is 160. And here's another shot of the same bird, 320 millimeters, 1/500th, f6.3, and the ISO is 500. Well, I am back home now after what could only be described as a bona fide struggle to find subjects to photograph today. So it has been a struggle, but the struggle wasn't caused by the camera or the lens, just haven't been able to find good subjects today, although the deer were pretty cool. So at least there's that. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and if you liked it at all, hit the thumbs up button. That helps me out a lot. And as always, I look forward to seeing you hopefully in my next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.